Hey everybody, this is Sophie and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here today. I'm here because I'm catching up slowly on 2019 movies, and the first one that I'd love to talk about is Shazam. Shazam! 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 You gotta say it with more enthusiasm. You gotta really emphasize that. Anyway, this film, I was not very excited to see it because of the way it was marketed. I thought that they made it kind of look goofy and a little corny and comical. It's just, you get so riddled down with all these comic book movies. It's already enough dealing with the MCU, which is, excuse me, the MCU is like part agenda driven, part action, part comedy stand-up show, part non-faithful comic book movie. And you just get kind of sick of comic book movies after watching like 2 Marvel movies in a row. And that's been the case this year. I've watched Dark Phoenix, which I actually really loved, and then Endgame, which I kind of liked but kind of have a lot of issues with. But then I saw this movie, and wow, was I wrong. This movie was so refreshing and so just fun and entertaining, and I think the greatest thing that this movie had going for it was the script. The script to this movie was phenomenal. It really fleshed out these characters that I did not care about. Like, I saw the trailer, I saw, oh look, it's a big goofball, and there's a big goofball villain, who cares? But then you watch the movie, and they're really deep, and you have these orphan kids, and they're in this group home, and it's really sort of relatable, and it's a very sad yet very heartfelt story. And it reminds me a little bit of Big, which is pretty cool. And I loved every single thing about this movie except for 2 minor things. Well, one of them isn't minor. I did not like Zachary Levi, and I did not like the soundtrack. I mean, the score. Because the score was very kind of one-dimensional. The score was something that I would have expected this movie to have. There was 1 or 2 songs where they really worked, and the first one was the beginning song, and then the second one was when, spoiler alert, when the villain comes to confront his dad, that whole scene. And then the CGI for this movie was actually really good too, a lot better than a lot of the other movies that I've seen lately. Even Avengers Endgame with Professor Hulk, he did not look good compared to the CGI in this movie. And so going on to Zachary Levi, I just did not care for him. I think that Shazam is supposed to be somebody that you look up to and that you think is this strong and powerful, like really like a meathead guy who's really inspirational and really like a mentor. But instead, he's this big goofball, and he's there are a lot of scenes where he makes some weird choices in the way that he delivers lines. There was one good scene though that I loved where he was in it and his acting actually did shine. So maybe he could do better in the second one. And that is the scene where he buys beer and then he has the thug shoot him over and over again. I thought that was perfect. I thought, uh-oh, maybe I was wrong about Zachary, but then the rest of the movie, even at the end, And so, yeah, the stars of this movie, surprisingly, were the kids. I loved all the foster kids, especially the little sister who couldn't keep her mouth shut. She's a great character. And then the best friend, he's a great character, and then the main kid, he does a surprisingly phenomenal job. I actually, and this is bad too, I actually wanted to see him instead of Shazam. Like, I just wanted to see him do the whole movie. I didn't want to see Zachary Levi. I just wanted to see him and his friend, because they were the shining parts of this movie. And then of course the villain, he had quite a bit written to him, but I didn't really understand why he wanted the power, because he got a lot of power from those evil demon monsters, but it wasn't really clear. That was weird. It wasn't really clear why he wanted the Shazam powers, because he obviously has a very low opinion of himself. He might want the power to feel good about himself and to be the person that Shazam was, but again, that's another problem, is that Shazam in this movie, number one, he doesn't do a lot of heroics, and number two, he's not really someone you aspire to be. And so it's not really believable to me that he wants to be Shazam, because Shazam in this movie isn't really someone to look up to very much. Well, he is near the end and then in one part, but not really the rest of the movie. And I actually thought the real villain of this movie was the mom. The mom was really, wow. They really were able to make a great villain out of just such a minor character. And I love that, because again, it's all about the writing. The writing for this movie, I really hope the writer does the next one too, and he improves on Zachary Levi's part, makes him more inspirational, but everything else was perfect. And another thing about this movie was a true 80s movie. Now, what I mean by true 80s movie is that a lot of movies nowadays, they pretend to be 80s, like It 2017. They try to play off nostalgia. They try to be a real 80s movie, but they end up just being really fake and really kind of artificial, and really like, oh, you're trying to disguise something with all these references and all these posters and 80s songs, and it just doesn't work. But with this movie, the way that it was written, the way that it was acted, it so much reminded me of like an 80s movie. Kind of Suburban Commando, actually, if you want to be frank. And so I actually really liked this movie, but it did have some issues. Another thing I didn't mention, this is kind of minor, but the directing was kind of poor at some points. There were some shots where they really were kind of boring shots, or not, the cinematographer, because they sat up on the Rocky steps, and I thought that could have been a really cool shot, but the way that it was filmed, it wasn't really as emotional, it wasn't really as gripping as it could have been. Because when you think of, because when you think of comic books, you think of those really wide panels, those big pictures of these epic scenes and these perfectly, gripping scenes with these characters and these lines of dialogue, just big words, big letters. But with this scene and some other scenes, it was kind of diminished, the whole feeling of it, of being at the Rocky Steps, because I was actually at the Rocky Steps years ago, in like 2015, 2016, and let me tell you, it's a great feeling being there, and I ran all the way up to the top, and I looked down. It is a cool view. Maybe it's just the time of day that they shot it, the way that it was so dark, you couldn't really see anything. But I mean, come on. They should have watched the original Rocky for reference. I'm sorry, this is a big tangent, by the way, but they should have watched the original one, because with the original, they really made that place look beautiful and breathtaking and like a big accomplishment to just run up those stone stairs, when really it's not that big of an accomplishment if you're in shape. But they made it look so magnificent. In this movie, it was kind of like, eh. And so, anyways, that's what I thought about the movie. I kind of liked the twist at the end, but then again, I kind of didn't. They were doing it because of the message, but I thought that it kind of took away some of the specialness of Shazam himself being the one Shazam, and I thought that but I enjoyed it still. I was very taken back by how heartfelt and how funny this was, and how much that I'd actually like to watch it again. And also, it was really cool seeing Lex Luthor's father in Smallville. He played the bad guy's father in this one too, and I really appreciated that little tribute there, because Smallville is truly the best version of Superman, and I love seeing tributes to that. So, anyways, with this movie, it was kind of easy to give this movie a rating. I would give this movie a big bag of blue and red cotton candy for the colorful stuff in this movie, for the comedy, for the big fluffy 80s feeling that it actually has. It doesn't have to try to have that 80s feeling. It just has that 80s feeling naturally. And then with a side of some popcorn that's a little stale and a little old, and that represents kind of the directing and kind of Zachary Levi himself, because the writing is perfect, but the way that the writing was then transformed by the actor and Zachary Levi wasn't that good, except for that one scene. And so that's what I thought of this movie. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend that you watch it, even if you're sick of superhero movies. If you're having a bad day or having a rainy night, just put this movie in. It'll make you feel better. And please subscribe to our channel so that you can see more of my videos and Safi's videos and our videos. I'll actually be seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood this week, and I'll be reviewing that too. I'll be doing a regular review and a spoiler review, and I'll make sure to keep it honest with you, unlike some other certain critics on YouTube. So goodbye everybody, see you soon!